Welcome. Anthony, how about you do the
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice.
Thank you. Everybody see the screen all right, or do we need to move up a little? Oh, Steve Chitter and Corey will not be joining us tonight, as I understand. So if anybody needs to get closer, there's a couple seats here, or just up.
Oh,
Okay.
Ryan, he's right.
Oh, that's who else, Brian. I knew there was-
Because I didn't do.
All right, then Anthony, can you give that packet this? Okay, housekeeping items are the usual, the exits, and the restrooms. Is there anybody on Zoom with us? No, okay, and there's nobody, the gallery here, so it's just us for now. Meeting minutes for our last meeting of January 25th will be available at our next meeting. It's pretty busy in town hall right now with tax season, so giving Bonnie a pass on that for tonight. In terms of the committee organization, there were a few things that happened this afternoon in terms of edits that I noticed when I was going over these things again. And they didn't make it to the website tonight, but they're very incidental things. They're nothing that affects the content of what we're doing. So I was hoping that would be all right. And we'll post those. I have for Denise to post them tomorrow, or he's off tomorrow, so Friday. Okay, on the communications, I had asked Mike to help obtain the corporation documents for the Mendon Fire Department, which he forwarded, because that and the corporation papers for the Pontiac Falls Fire Department are an appendix in the report, just so the town board is aware that each department has its own corporation status that would not need to change if in fact there is a town-wide consolidation of fire service. So I wanted those documents there just so they understand that, and that is information available to them. So thank you. And then supervisor is next. They're on the agenda under communications.
So on our next next meeting is next Monday, 13th February. Following meeting, which is March 13th, will be a presentation by Muffy to the town board as far as overview, and at that point, hopefully the town board will have the completed report to look over before that meeting, say a week or so before that meeting, somewhere shortly after March 1st, to look it over so that the board can compile any questions they have. Muffy, Karen, or myself will be there. Any of you who would like to attend, I certainly welcome you to attend. It's 7 o'clock in town hall, and see what happens from there.
While we're on the subject of the report, when we meet again on February 22nd, you know that the report has to be delivered to the supervisor by March 1st. And depending on what has to be done to the report after our next meeting, as soon as that happens and this report is ready to go, I will have 5 copies. Supervisor asked for every town board member to have a paper copy in a notebook, and I will give those to the supervisor so that whenever then they're made available to the town board members, they would have them. certainly by March 1st and have a chance to take a look at that. And then the meeting on the 13th would be more like an executive summary, just to highlight some things for them within the report and give them here's what you need to know and where it is in the report, if in fact they haven't found it, so that there's best information we can give them moving forward.
John, is the village board going to be invited to this meeting?
I cannot plan to invite the village board at that time. I mean, if they would like to, we can certainly have a joint meeting. But I was more or less looking for the overview to the town board, and then my impression was from there, if the town board wanted to proceed, we would then either go to a village board meeting or have a joint board meeting. Same thing with the board of commissioners of the fire district. But if there's a different way of doing it, certainly open to any suggestions, ideas, things that might lend itself. I only thought maybe this would be a good idea because I wanted the town board asked for this committee and asked for a report. I wanted them to make sure they understood, and before proceeding with any suggestions from this committee, I wanted to make sure the town board wanted to proceed in that fashion. Let's go talk to the fire district, let's go talk to the village, see what they think. Certainly open ideas, suggestions, etc.
I mean, I think that the village board is a very important part of this whole process.
Absolutely.
And to not invite them to Muffy's presentations, be not acceptable.
I would just say, I don't know how the official, when you get more than 3 in a room, it's considered a quorum. So whether that would constitute the need for a joint meeting, or maybe talking with the mayor to see, an invitation to the mayor and another town board by the village board member, and an outreach. Is Brian the commission chair?
He is a chair.
I'd be glad to reach out to both the commission and the village to say, would you like to attend? Would you like to be a joint meeting? Because I'm sure the commissioners have the same, I think they have the same meetings, law requirements that everyone else has. If you have more than 3 of you, it's going to be meeting and advertised kind of thing. So I definitely don't have a problem. And if that night isn't a good night, quite frankly, if we're going to put the commissioners, village board, the town board all together, we probably are going to want to have it here, not at town hall or not at village hall, or at the fire district. Another big enough room for that money.
I think that might be the way to go. I think it's going to be well attended. A lot of people are looking forward to the report.
Sure.
Hearing it, so maybe accidentally we might find ourselves in a official meeting.
Sure. So why don't I send an email out tomorrow to, Brian's out of town for an extended period of time. Somebody,
Yeah, it's vacation. I'm not sure how long he usually doesn't email.
does he? All right. So I'll send out an email to the mayor and to Brian and just tell them what the plan is kind of and see what they'd like to do.
Yeah, Falls Fire too, right? Even though it's the village, I'll be there. I'm thinking, well, I'm just saying,
Sure.
more the merrier. I'm thinking,
Same thing with the rank and file from Mendon.
Yeah,
same
I mean,
kind of thing.
Well,
We're not
anybody
trying
can
to-
come. I'm just
Right.
concerned about the official status so that we don't get wrapped around some process glitch. If the commission and the village are wanting to come, as a group, then you certainly have plenty of time to advertise for meetings.
And it doesn't have to be the 13th. We can do it a different. Because, well, there would be, if both organizations said, let's do it that night, there'd be time to get legal notices by the 13th. It doesn't have to be, it just happens to be the night the town board meets. And actually, if it's going to be a joint meeting like that, it would probably be better if we didn't do any other town business.
Well, let us know if you have something put together, you know.
Sure.
next-
Absolutely.
Actually, the next meeting, you asked if those of us that would not be present physically, I will be one of those not present, physically, but I will make every effort.
And I will be. See if I can get it.
Do you have all the information to tune into the Zoom? Yeah. And if any of you are aware of someone else on the committee who won't be here and maybe they can Zoom, but if they need information, call Bonnie and get her, whoever does the Zoom. Yeah, but who,
It's right
who
on
do
the
they
web-
it's on
call
the
in town
website.
hall to get? It's on the
going
website?
page, right on the website.
Okay.
Yeah,
Great.
it's actually really easy. Convenient, I guess.
All right, is there anything else that anybody has under communication? Robin, I did receive your attachments today, so I have them. It's a little late in the game to try and integrate information from them into the report. Do you want them listed on the studies chart?
One of them is labeled confidential, so I don't know if passage of time has gone far enough that it would not be confidential.
Well, I don't have to put that one down, but I mean, did you?
Well, for that, it's just the date that this conversation has been happening for decades.
Right, and I put that in the narrative,
Yeah, and it's time.
right? But do you want, other than the one marked confidential, do you want them listed on the studies? or
No, it was more informational.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, the first red font there, bullet says review the forward sections of the report. This is the report. This is everything. This is the narratives, the figures, the appendices. So it's 298 pages. Not all of it will probably be read. So our focus, I just want to make sure with you that the narratives are in line with what you want. All have a different style of writing. So I don't want to interrupt the flow of the narrative, but I want to make sure the information is accurate. So if in reading it, any of you identify a typo or a misspelling or something that just glares at you as an error, I certainly want to know about it. If you have a different sense of how the words should be put together, that's then a conversation that we need to have, because sometimes something like that can change the way that the pieces go together. So I just want to make sure that we're all okay with the information. If you look, it says the forward sections of the report. Those are the table of contents, the preface, the acknowledgement page, the list of figures, and the list of abbreviations. So those are those pieces. You should have received all of those by email. I noticed today when I was going over them again that the Roman numerals were out of sequence. So that's one section that will change by the page number, not the content. That's what I mean. I didn't think we needed to get that posted on the website or reprint them. The first,
I did have one thing.
yes,
Ink tester and be able to refer to that as chiefs.
they're not there as chiefs. They're there because they've appointed themselves to be on the committee as part of the fire department. I don't know how you feel about that. They weren't on there as a chief, they were on there as a fire department member.
I think it just like historically at all. Historically, it may add some more validity to.
Well, as you read as you read the report, they're listed as Chief Tour and Chief Kester, I believe. So, I don't know. I didn't put honorable in front of Supervisor Moffett and Jenkins or Commissioner in front of Ryan Wilsey. They're there because of the role they play and is. Unless want me to change that and then I'm giving.
Sounds like. Moving on.
Okay, all right, okay. Chapter 1 is a one-pager. Just an introduction. You should have that. And then there are 3 figures, the resolution that appointed the committee, the meeting schedule with the extensions on it, and the legal notice from the newspaper, which is the resolution where the board extended the meetings. To make sure that that's in order. Anything to this point? All right, on the committee charge, item 7 of the agenda. We look down the status, chapter 2. The draft with the figures. Chapter 2 is authority that runs through some of the state statute, ability to create fire district, fire protection district, municipal department, what they're all about. And then describing a joint town village fire district. And under jurisdiction, did anybody bring that with them from the email? Okay,
Yeah.
so on page 7,
Yep.
is there now a paragraph that starts out the village of Winnebago Falls? Right under the term jurisdiction.
No, it starts Minden Fire District 1 at a special meeting.
Okay, so, all
That's the copy.
right, so ahead of that, I did put a piece in there because I noticed when I was reading this today. We have 3 jurisdictions. We pointed that out throughout the report. Yeah, that's what I added, the bullets and above, just to make sure that when we talk about 3 jurisdictions, they're each mentioned here. I did the fire district and I did the fire protection district, but it didn't strike me that I needed to put something there for the village till I read this morning and found there was omission. So from my own knowledge, I put that paragraph in there. That's why there's no credit for some report. So that you might have seen. Right. Any concerns about the narrative, chapter 2? Right. The figures for chapter 2 are the municipal resources. That's the fire marshal and the employees of the town, the village, and the fire district and what they do. Figure 2 in there is from the Rockefeller report, where it does the rates for the fire districts and all the jurisdictions within Monroe County. Figure 3 is the map that you all have of the town of Mendon and the jurisdictions, the 3 jurisdictions. And then the appendices are the creation of the fire district, the creation of the fire protection district, and the first contract with the village that goes hand in hand with the creation of the fire protection district. So those are attached to chapter 2. Any questions on those? Okay, chapter 3 is the fire department operations and procedures. This is the bulk of the data and the research from the fire departments on all of those special tables. Response times, membership, training, mutual aid companies that you deal with, the battalion structure within the county, the call volumes, the apparatus and equipment inventory, summary. The total calls for the year for fire rescue and services. There's 5 pages for each department that run through their call volume and call turnout for structure fires, EMS, hazardous materials, weather, and EMS calls. We're into the monetary grants for each department, the studies that have been done for each department, the capital reserve funds, the indebtedness, the maximum indebtedness, and the real property assets of the departments, the total taxable assessments, and the rate per thousand from 2000 on up through 2022. For the water authority, we have the hydrant map, some information on the response times from 20 up to 2022, and 21 to 22. And then we are adding a map and some information that Anthony has about the location of the volunteers, the time it takes from their home to the firehouse, and then the firehouse out. So you get a good idea of the response time for the individuals to the equipment, and then the equipment out to the scene. So all of what you've done in the regard of the operations is in here. All the figures are identified in the narrative. They may be handwritten, figure 3- whatever, because there are 41 of them, soon to be 42 of them. So I want to make sure that for ease and simplicity, can be packaged in paper form as easily as possible and then scanned for an electronic platform, which Danny's going to help. These are the appendices for chapter 3. We have that fiscal report for the town and the village that the supervisor provided that says basically from the office of the state comptroller, there's no fiscal stress going on with the departments. We have the mutual aid and the mutual assistance summary that shows how many times you went out, how many times people came, other departments came in. We have the local laws for the town of Mendon that show all of the exemptions. We have the village board payment schedule and the town payment schedule for the serial bonds. We have the contract for 2023 for the fire protection district in Mendon. We have an update on the fire contract costs, basically from 1990 whatever to 2023. The assessor's report on property assets for both the town and the village. And then again, the comptroller's reports on fiscal stress. Any questions on chapter 3?
I do have.
Yep.
Multiple
Okay.
suggestions for edits. Best be.
Do you want to do that in writing to me, or do you want to do it?
I can do it in writing and I just highlight it. Areas here.
Do you want to talk about it, or?
I think you have the chapter in there. And so starting under, yep, that's the one.
Give me a page number where you start.
Page 1, under paragraph 1.
Yep.
The first paragraph kind of talks about 3 critical factors providing fire protection. I think it's remiss in not
Wait a minute, are we talking right under staffing or what?
right above operations.
Oh, that's right out of a report.
Yep.
What I did there, in each chapter, I've just taken a quip from some place that I think is kind of pertinent to what's talked about in there. And that's why that's there, that's all. So if you have a better one you think fits.
I think
there.
just in addition, but it's not, I guess it's not close. style. It just, it adds response time, which is a critical factor.
Why don't you look at that where we talk about response time in here?
Okay.
Is that okay? Or,
It comes back to styles. The sentence I have written for
yeah,
proposed edit would be, in addition to these factors, response time is consistently listed as a major factor in the outcomes of emergencies. Not be overstated that the amount of time it takes for a fire department to assemble and deploy qualified, effective response forces to an incident will have a direct impact on individuals and communities.
I don't disagree with that, but I think that's a little bit much to do as a, like a clip of what's gonna follow. And I really think if we haven't covered that here under response time in the narrative, that that should go in the narrative.
Okay.
So response times is on page 6. And what I've done there is define the response times that the fire departments gave me in relation to the figure, the data chart. So if you think that what Anthony just read is a good introduction paragraph about response time in general, I would put it ahead there. Danny, go up. I would put it right there where it says response times. I would take Anthony's verbiage and make that where it says response times as a general category. I would move that down because it says it's defined in figure 26 and figure 27, define the chart response time figures. So I would move that down and take your entree and put it right there as the opening paragraph. Does that work for you? Okay.
Noted. Everything else is noted.
Well, where there's a study or something, yes, but
Who said that?
okay, you're gonna get it right.
Yes. Went back, thought I got it multiples, and I
Yeah.
apologize, but 8 months of my life. So under staffing, at the end of the first paragraph, so page 1.
Yep.
Under staffing, I think that is a bit of an absolute sentence. It doesn't necessarily reflect accurately what we're trying to train the people being trained and credentialed. I think ending that sentence to varying levels, adding to varying levels would be appropriate. Both HFFD and then maintain active rosters of volunteers who are trained and credentialed in fire protection services. To me, sounds like everybody's trained to the same standard.
No, we know that's not true. That's why it goes on to explain that it's, okay, what do you? what do you
And
wanna
then
say?
I would just add 3 more words to varying levels.
Okay, I'll read it. Okay, done.
And then at the end of the next paragraph, speaking with the fluctuating staffing, reading through it, I don't think that it gives an overall, the graphs give the picture of a downward trend, but doesn't say within an overall downward trend. So I would propose we end that paragraph with interior and exterior staffing fluctuates and within an overall downward trend.
Okay,
Is that accurate?
well, Mendon and Huntington Falls vary a little bit in terms of the bar graph. So I didn't want to portray something that doesn't, it gives a different idea than what somebody's going to see on the bar graph. That's why I didn't say, I said the total active force is declining, but the interior and exterior staffing fluctuate because Mendon's has gone up and down
Yeah,
on a stable basis, where yours has gone down. So that's my
that
only
makes sense.
concern, because we're not subjective, we're,
right. I mean, you look at our trend lines.
You're going
Mendon
down,
Falls, and
for
they
sure.
say overall down the
Yeah.
trend. I think the trend line of Mendon is
a little more,
less. down.
Overall, but if you look at, you break down interior versus exterior.
not
Interior
versus
is going down.
interior and exterior both wave a little bit, that I didn't feel comfortable saying that they're included in that total downward trend.
Right, I mean, numbers wise, we have dropped off that.
So then maybe, I guess,
See, that's
you have,
what
now you have
But
a
the
point
qualifications
there,
we have,
if that's gonna,
but the qualifications we have. You know, we have dropped our interior fire department. And our exterior fire forces grown. So,
We show that the interior's gone down. I'm really hesitant about starting to be subjective in interpreting this, because we're not interpreters, we're
Right.
objective reporters.
and I don't want anything to call into question objectivity.
So
I can certainly live without those
All right, let's-
backwards.
let's just go back to the sentences. And then, yeah, I don't want you to be losing any integrity here for somebody to say, we're not doing this because we don't think it's valid. What else you got?
If we move over to page 2.
Yep.
Right. Paragraph that starts with figure 3-2.
3-3, page 2, 3-3.
Looking for 3-2. Like that it's going to push.
Oh, bottom of page 1.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
So are we at the end of that paragraph that starts figure 3-2?
Figures table. Yeah, so in this paragraph, there's no mention of Mendon's retention number. I would just propose that we would.
It's figure 3-3, and they're in 3-4.
It's in the, yeah, it's in the figure, but we stated for Honey Falls there. In quotes, years of operational service over the last 5 years in 2.01.
Yeah, I couldn't get what we're talking about for Honey Falls. I could not get from Mendon's piece.
Nope.
No, so I took what Mendon had.
I guess I saw it as 2.42 years from what I was looking at.
All right, let me get it. Okay, here's Honey Falls. And here's Mendon. I have a table for Mendon. That's all I have. I don't have a bar graph. I don't have anything other than this table.
Those two the tables should match.
Here's Honey Falls.
Yes. Should coordinate.
Yes,
And
they
the
have
average years was.
Yeah.
The last 5 years.
2.42, and I have you.
Yeah, it just in this paragraph doesn't.
As indicated by
averages. It's in the figure. It
You
just.
see what- Well, I noted it. Down in that paragraph, it says, is indicated the average retention of numbers of years for operational service in the last 5 years is 2.01 for Honey Falls and 2.42 for Mendon. What?
You could say
Oh,
enter is there.
So you, maybe you have a.
Oh. It's in mine, so it's in an edit dated. Sorry, I'm sorry. I don't know that you all, I lose track of what's gone out.
Me too.
All right, what I'm looking at is dated 2/2. The last page shows the date of the, so it's Danny, yeah, oh, yeah.
Well,
Okay, so that's,
So we can expect to see.
it's in there. It's in there. Sorry. All right, what else, Anthony?
Um,
You'll see that.
Right.
You get everything.
I also, we discussed it, it's not shown in the data. But anecdotally, I think it's important to capture that not only do we only retain them for that amount of time, but we do see a loss in productivity before they leave the department.
Yeah, you suggested that, but you don't have anything to show it.
Yeah. How do you show that?
So again, that's where we don't want to get into that gray area.
Fair. Fair. Yeah, I don't know how you really show that.
Don't need to,
Like, all of these. Yeah, but
we have to run every,
yeah, you have to do it month by month, or,
I-
you know, and that would be too far into the weeds to.
This is telling the story. I don't wanna get, like you say, into the weeds because that can distract people and it's like, what does that mean?
Right. Almost, I mean, even that's kind of far of the weeds, really. Kind of over 5 years, you know, what does that really mean?
that's the retention.
That's the
Your
reason.
But
average.
what, if you read that, just, what does it really mean?
Well, just keep in mind that that's after it says 2.01 for Community Falls and 2.42 for Mendon, I added that in. And then you can see how you attribute to that. And the idea here is, and in your tables, you show historically by age groups, who's there and how many years they've been there. But new people coming in under recruitment and retention, that's average of what you're seeing. So what we're saying to the town board is volunteer recruitment and retention here might grab people, but it's not adding substantially to the volunteer active rosters for longevity purposes. So you either go out and recruit your hearts out and you're happy with this, and you're going to have 68 members and grab a couple and lose a couple every 2 years. That's not the case. You know, the luxury of recruiting and retention is to basically keep it at status quo, and you're not doing that. That's not happening. Not to a detriment, you're not doing it. It's just the way of the world. It's not in the cards anymore. So it tells a story. It shows the story. And I think that's the best we're going to do unless you want to track those recruits and see what their activity is. And then, I mean, it might have a value for you for training purposes and stuff, but I don't know what that would mean to the town board more than what that says.
Could the question be raised as to what recruitment practices? If I read that, I could say, recruitment from what? 2009, 2022, I said, what recruitment practices?
I don't know.
I'm asking the question, I mean, if we're trying to be objective and say this is what we did, this is what happened, asking, should that be there or something? Just
Well,
asking a question.
If we go forward into chapter 6 with trends and projections, all of what you're showing here in your operations with your departments is standard across national, state, region, local practices. So basically, we show that whatever the recruitment tools are,
It's in-
it's in there, and volunteers just aren't coming out in numbers like they once did. That's evident going throughout this. So I don't know, David, if that would make a difference in that.
I'm just saying though that if there's a question, I was reading that, I'd say, okay, how did you recruit? I'm asking, is that spelled out? We could say, well, we did direct mailings, we we did something at the school. I'm just asking the question because I could read that, and go, well, how did you recruit? What does that mean, recruit?
Okay.
You just,
Do the departments want to add something to the figures that are there? As recruiting
I
tools?
think it helps back up the argument a little bit.
I think that's certainly gonna be a
C
question.
and D, and they were not fruitful compared to
Is it sufficient to just state, I mean, there's obviously an increased social media presence centered around trying to recruit.
I'm
and-
just saying, if you flesh that out,
Yeah.
it just leaves it whole, I think. You don't say,
Just give me a couple bullets right now. Social
well,
media,
there's social media,
Yeah.
there's- I don't know
What
what
else?
she's doing.
They were-
Open houses.
Do a-
Advertising on,
Fund drive,
you know,
just to the carnival,
We go to the
social
social
media.
school, I don't know, explore programs. do that.
We've
I'm just saying, if you flesh that out, you can say, look, we've done, we've hit these.
do you have an Explorer post?
You're trying to supplement theirs.
Okay, so I have some bullets here. Social media, Recruit New York is a program.
Yep.
Fund drives. Event booths. Somebody said open house. Open
Yeah,
house.
it's part of Recruit New York. It is generally, that's.
Yeah,
open house.
they can give you resources.
Word program.
I got Explorer program for Mendon. What else? Did you say something, Mike?
Somebody said Recruit New York, but that's access to material that you can promote faculty. Yeah, they have an event that
There's a
you
week
hold at the station.
Does FASNY still?
and.
So I'll say Recruit New York week.
Yep.
And promotional material. Okay,
Informational table. The students.
And the community drills. And the education. That the,
And
The kind of community drills that we do.
so fire service demonstrations.
Yeah, like Mendon Market.
handed out candy on Halloween.
Well, I mean, just like, seriously. I mean,
Community events.
It's an event,
Yeah.
but I, again, I'm just saying, I think when this one had you exhausted.
No, I don't think we do.
All right,
What's
all
the difference?
right, so I've got 8 bullets.
We got 8 pounds of pages when we get in a half.
Well, I've got 8 bullets. So I can add that under here for, I'll find a spot.
Best resource are members.
Yeah.
Who talk to the people in the community. And we really spend that, we cover incentive members. Other than that, why?
Well, I think Honey Falls did. Didn't you give somebody who did a monetary cent for their recruitment? I think so. I think there was a couple $100 available. If you remember.
Oh,
when
actually,
recruited.
you are correct. They started under 2 bucks.
Okay, something that we do.
All right, so I'm gonna put member word of mouth and, I'll find a word, not payoff, but I'll.
Pete doesn't like just better digital signs first.
Thank you. Recruitment bounty. Okay. All right,
So that's
that's 3, 6, that's
Good.
10 bullets.
That's
All right. Okay. Keep going, Anthony.
Under paragraph 11.72, so starting New York State, bottom of the page, New York State, state credential. And our county instructors, I kind of proposed a change to that to more reflect that firefighters get their initial certification from the state and the county, but the bulk of the ongoing training to keep up proficiency and competency really falls to the departments.
Okay, so I've got that in there.
Um, I don't know if it would be appropriate to stress the amount of effort that goes into that.
Okay, you're
That's right.
operational, so I understand your
Yeah.
concern
Yep.
about this, but we have to remember the audience and I don't know.
You're not hurting my feelings. Just
Well-
let me know.
I don't know, do we need to put something there about the quantity of department training?
Quantity?
quantity, I'm sorry, meant to say like numbers. You don't have any figures on it that I'm aware
I
of.
had just written, the majority of ongoing drills and training is handled in-house by each department and designated training officers. It takes place 3 Mondays each month, barring holidays.
35, then
In addition to, for the bulk of.
How about extensive department-led training?
Bulk of.
Would that do
department
it?
letter.
That way, then we don't have to do
Yeah.
until all the details.
So if I add the word extensive, in addition to extensive department-led training requirements.
Alpine area.
I mean, that's fair if that,
There you go.
okay, next.
Sure.
It's not red alert in person, isn't it red MMX? You should at least put the right name in there, I think.
I think that's for a program, but the company is Red Alert.
The
Report
company is Alpine South.
Alpine South.
I think the new system we use is red MMX.
I was told red alert, so you tell me.
That's what it
I
used
think
to
it's
be called. It used to be red alert. I think the new one is called red MMX. Yes,
That might be Red Alert.
we should look at that, just to make sure we're using the right name.
Somebody get back to me.
We can vet that.
Okay. I'll just circle it for now because make sure. Okay,
Probably page 4,
yeah,
mutual aid, mutual assistance.
which paragraph?
There's both HFFD and
Yeah.
and
Okay,
establish mutual assistance agreements with neighboring departments.
right,
Propose that we just add for structure fires. Those mutual aid agreements don't extend to all departments for all different calls. The only people we supplement automatically or have planned standing mutual assistance agreements with for something other than a structure fire is Mendon Fire. And I believe vice versa for you guys.
We have.
And Fishers.
okay, so that's not taken care of by saying these operations are standing protocol assignments with the 911 center for dispatch on their respective call types.
I think this.
The
This
only-
is called types, doesn't it?
The respect, I guess respect to all types.
I think it covers it.
Okay, if it's
Those are
good,
just the only standing protocols that really. Your coverage of EMS after hours and structure fires in the town, and then our mutual assistance agreement. So as long as it's clear to other people that it's not, we don't have anything in Scottsville, or I guess we had a table
yeah, there's
that should outline that a little more.
10. It's right here. This was the one that listed all the departments that you have mutual assistance for mutual aid.
Right.
Mutual assistance and mutual aid. It just says mutual aid departments. And I put an X in where you told me that you have a relationship.
I rescind my
with them.
proposal. In the weeds.
All right, next.
I have an answer on the red alert thing.
Yes.
It's actually red. NMX.
So,
I will double, I will double check.
And
so it's,
Red and then capital N, capital M, capital X.
You might just have the.
so the color red, capital R's, capital E, capital D.
It's capital R, lowercase e, lowercase d, capital N, capital M, capital X.
And is there a space between red and the N?
No space.
All right, done.
It used to be red alert. And
Okay.
they did update
so up
it.
above where it says the red alert reporting system.
Yeah, there's two
Okay,
incidents
there's two.
there. I'll take care of those. Okay. All right, what else?
Under response times, each 6 or 7.
Yeah,
First paragraph.
we're changing that based on what you told me.
Yeah, but,
So you gave me a first
it might
paragraph.
be. It's, yeah, that's different.
That's what I have in front of me is different than what's up there because this has been updated February 2nd.
Okay.
That's December.
It's just from the updated version I have, talks about the table with the response times on it. It states that they are from time of dispatch, but doesn't state to which time, which would be the arrival on the scene.
I put down exactly what I was told by whoever told me at the time. Let me get the chart. Okay. It's on on 326, it's Honey Falls, and in there, the data is taken from response time exports for the red alert reporting system. And what you told me was the cumulative averages for en route and on scene times is calculated. The on scene time are from the time of dispatch. And you have on scene time category here, so that's why that's fine. Then the average response time is calculated using the village and the Mendon Fire Protection District tables.
Yeah, I'm reading what is here. It was quite clear to me
Okay. Does,
that
let me put this in front of you, if that helps with.
yeah, that's what I have here. Just propose adding to time of arrival.
All
So
of
it shows. So times on the table. Response time to the general.
Right. It's response time is a general category, is a subjective measure and must be defined for its specific use, because everybody talks about response time. On the table, there's a column called average on scene time,
So you're speaking
and that's from
specifically
the
to
time
that
of dispatch.
column.
Yes,
Are from. Yeah. I agree. It's from dispatch time until drive lines
then the average on scene time from the time of dispatch.
to.
It's not what it's set.
the
It's not what
average.
you.
Well, what is,
I don't know if it came from Corey, if it came from you, or Mendon, or where it came from, maybe Steve Chitter, or was it that meeting that we did? Corey,
does their table look like?
yeah, a little bit. Same kind of thing.
But so. We have our average in time here, right? That's, so if you take the response area for 566 and 2022, the average time to get 566 in route from dispatch is
Right there.
4 minutes, 34 seconds until en route. And the average on scene time is 5 minutes, 57 seconds.
And this is
From-
from the time of
from
dispatch.
and so
Okay.
it's not from en route.
It's from the time of dispatch.
Yep.
So,
Both of them. It's not, this isn't a human.
no, I think that's it's pretty clear. I don't know, does somebody else want to take a look? So we have the same columns in here. This is from the time of dispatch.
Time of Departure.
Dispatch.
departure station.
The average on-scene time is from the time of dispatch.
Yes.
Yeah, it's not
So
like
from
you
when
take
someone's going out to the truck arrives on scene,
Yes,
that.
it's that time.
that's what I'm saying.
And that's what we,
That is in round time. So from the time someone's go out to the truck.
and then from the time of dispatch to on scene is the other. Yeah, that's how I took it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just, when I read that sentence, it doesn't say what you just said, it just says it's from the time of dispatch. Okay, from the time of dispatch to what time. And everybody knows what on scene means.
Average on-scene time found is from the time. of dispatch. I don't know what it's.
I went to
But I'm looking at what I wrote. So,
Most of this.
So you got it, you understand. Looks like 600 people, 700 people are there, good. I'm good.
I don't know what other time it be.
what else you got, Ethan?
I think that's it.
All right, so you're gonna give me then that opening paragraph to response times that you started out. All right, anybody have anything else? Bree? All right. All right, so task 2 is chapter 4. Chapter 4 is opening piece of part 2. That's why at the top it says part 2 needs assessment. And chapter 4 is the demographic piece and then the natural and the target features. And we have those tables that really culminate the information in this piece. One is the natural features table. And the other is target features, where we talk about we identify the features, talk about the equipment. We know that we've got the equipment to respond. It looks like this. The feature, the call type. Sorry, upside down in that video. The regulating agency like DEC or the town or the village, the call type like fire or EMS or rescue, explosion, crash, search and rescue, the emergency response by both departments in terms of what they provide with equipment and apparatus, and then the requested staff. The requested staff, because most of these you're doing mutual aid because of the numbers of people you want there. So then it goes on to outline the mutual aid companies and the mutual assistance companies and typically what they're bringing. So you've done a really good job of detailing what you do for these features. This one is the target features. And then the natural features do the same thing, only they're, down to what we get from Mother Nature. So that does streams and tributaries in terms of the problems with the natural water features. the wetlands, flooding, and then weather events, earthquake, and the woodlots and woodlands. So do the same thing here. How many people you want, where they're coming from, who your equipment is, what the call type is. So that really covers it. And I mean, fortunately or unfortunately, this is pretty thick because we're justifying what's on those tables. With, these are our exposures in a built landscape feature and in a natural features within the town. And identifying what they are, where they're protected, why they're protected, that kind of thing. So if there's an issue about what the needs are for the equipment and why we have it, it's in here. Again, as Karen said last time, it's not anecdotal, it's data driven, it's verifiable. So I know some of this is a little bit out of the realm of operations and firefighting, but again, it speaks to the needs of what you have and when you have it. Does anybody have any questions about the narrative? Anything? Anybody? One of the things, and I'll just point it out to you, if you remember from our meetings, the supervisor had inquired and actually did a Freedom of Information request to state DOT for the number of crashes. We were looking at the exposure on the highways. So the letter and the response with the table on it came back. So that's in here. Oh, and then in 2017, the county did an update to its hazard mitigation plan. And in there, for the village and the town, there's like 30-some pages for each, which is everything you ever wanted to know about natural features and the problems that they cause and what the exposures are in the communities. And the county's about to step into doing this again as an update. So I wanted to make sure that the officials saw that this was some of the basis for what we've done. And then in case you can't find in your offices, this would be a good place to start when you get on the committee for the next update round. Okay, anything on chapter 4? Okay, chapter 5 is the resource considerations. This is the piece, as we mentioned last time, that starts to take all of that data and research information and put it together into what the story is about the problems and the shortfalls that we have. So this scripting is a little bit different in that it pulls all of this together in a storyline about what the problems are, not subjectively. It just groups it for better understanding and kind of gets people's arms around what does all this mean. Well, here's what it means in the same relationship as we discussed it. So it starts out with staffing, and then it goes to apparatus and equipment, and then it goes to the finances, the governance and jurisdiction, the community expectations. So if you see right at the top, I'm sorry, maybe I don't know if you get this or not, but right at the top, like where Anthony questioned the other opening italics piece, this one is the quote that David talked about after we did the whiteboard type thing. And the community people, the taxpayer group came back and said, when you call 911 for help, you expect qualified responders and equipment will respond in a timely manner. So that's the lead off in terms of what does that mean for our staffing? What does that mean for our equipment and apparatus? What does it mean for finances? What does it mean for our jurisdictions? And what in terms of administration, in how does it all come together now? So that was updated on the 2nd of February. And as far as I know, that's pretty good to go. So you should have that too. Does anybody have anything there? So in there, it starts to talk about this, this figure of the studies and the committee work across the years becomes pretty evident, and I think I say it in black and white here. Unless it's a study that's specifically looking at a piece of fire protection or fire service, the general sentiment out of the community when it comes to the fire departments is everybody's doing a good job. We appreciate what everybody's doing. The volunteers are there. It's a generalized statement about the service quality. When you look at these comprehensive reports and studies, it's said, the public says, for the town of Mendon, we want to preserve our rural character. We want the growth centers to remain in the village, in the hamlet. We want the commerce to remain in the village, in the hamlet. We like the rural landscape. So what does that mean for you in fire protection? Are we going to be able to get public water in the area of the town that is not served now? And so, you know, your tanker task force, bang, that's where that's driven to. What about streetlights? What about the advantages of intersection overhead lights where there's trouble spots? So the town board can begin to see that, oh, well, if we're not going to grow and develop into, you know, like a, and I'm just going to stereotype, like a Henrietta or Brighton, where we become another ring of, you know, around this urban landscape. If we're going to be more of a rural landscape, and suburban type landscape, village, hamlet, what does that mean for fire protection? What should we be doing? What should we be looking at? What should we be forecasting? How can we better get our arms around what's going on when we look at fire protection in our community? Starting to think about, is the layout that we have, the 3 jurisdictions, is that the best we can do? What are any shortcomings? What are any opportunities where we can look at fire protection and advancement in it for the betterment of the community safety, the firefighter safety, the equipment that we have, the efficiency of what we're doing? So this comprehensive plan and study stuff doesn't address what we're doing. The only way you get to fire service is to look at some of these that talk specifically about fire service. A fire department building committee, the ISO report, the preliminary construction of water main estimates, talked about that. It's not there. So I bring that out in the narrative to make it clear that the comprehensive plans have stayed away from fire and EMS other than to say quality with what we have. It's not a bad thing. It's just, we're not going to get anything for us out of this. Okay. Chapter 6, trends and projections. I took a lot of information right out of the Rockefeller report because it talked about what's happening in Monroe County, Laurelton, Ridge Culver, Hamlin, Morton, Walker, West Brighton. I put information in here on Scottsville, Wheatland, Scottsville Joint Fire District, just because I went to all those hearings. I have the information. I look at the town of Victor in here, just anecdotally about the change from the town of Avon Fire Protection District served by the East Avon Fire Department, now the town of Avon Fire District. So what's around us, what we're using, what's in Monroe County is in here. Also in here is what we talked about the last time. No, sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. All right, any questions about this? Any questions, suggestions? I think this tells a story. If you've read this, if you haven't, I hope you will, because it is very plain that everything that's going on in these departments around you in Monroe County is exactly what's happening here. For the Wheatland Scottsville, I took the supervisor's letter for the public hearing and I quoted it because it was almost like she was looking in a glass ball and, here's Honey Falls and Mendon for some things. So hopefully this again is a better picture of what's going on around us and that we're not alone. And it's going to show the town officials that this is a kind of a universal thing going around. So the pieces that go with that, this is a figure from the Rockefeller report. And it lists in New York State all of the communities to the point that the report was written that have had a change in the structure of how they do business. And it's going back to grants that were available from New York State. That was how this was captured. But the storyline down the column follows through just what I talked about around the state. And then the second figure is from the County Fire Bureau. And it's a table of the departments, districts, fire protection districts, but not like Mendon, fire protection districts that are assigned to Chi-Li, Churchville, Clifton, Bushnell's Basin. So this is just another graphic that shows a little bit different information. So I thought that was important. All right, now chapter 7. And I don't want to keep you longer than we need to do, but there's something here that definitely want to point out to you. I went through this again because what we did the last time, we came away with you saying, I want you to start to script information about a town-wide district. David had asked the last time about the joint fire district, and I'm sorry if I misunderstood you. But I want to clarify that in order for there to be a town-wide district, it has to be a joint fire district. Because your idea of a town-wide district, as I understood it, would be the fire district, the fire protection district, and the village. The town cannot legislate for the village. So for the village to become a part of this, which I think is what you want, it would be a joint fire district. Forget the word joint. Everything you know about a fire district is the same, but because it's a village and town combination, it's joint. So everything a fire district can do, a joint fire district can do. Just has the word joint in front of it to designate village and town. So what I did was clarify that in here. Then I went to those tables. We looked at two figures. One was taking the current setup of jurisdictions and talking about who could do what. Remember? And I took those models and I did figure 7.3 and 7.4 and I put dollars on it. And I showed the administration piece of it for the numbers of elected officials. So if you look at 7.3, you'll see it's basically the same columns going down with the addition of a few just to get the graphic in line with the dollar signs. But here's what happens. Again, we've got five elected officials in each jurisdiction. In the municipal services column, what happens with the fire protection district is the tax is added to the town budget. It becomes part of the town's actual budget. Not like the district where the town collects for the district. The fire protection district is a piece of the town's actual appropriations and revenue. The taxable assessed value, I broke that down across the board. The property tax rate based on that. And the asterisks, you'll have to go down to the next page if you have it with you to see how that's defined and what it means. Property tax exemptions don't change, they stay with the municipalities. The budgets, I used the village fire contract. Data.
That should be two measures. Three, right?
Yeah, I gotta change. Thank you for that. That's why more eyes are better than my two. Okay. So the village budget, what I did was I took everything from the fire contract for 23. Because it lists the operational budget, it adds on the debt, it adds on the reserves, everything that they accumulate or aggregate for fire costs for the village. And I went into their 2020, 22, 23 budget. That's the current budget. Because the fire contract currently is based on a previous year's budget. So I wanted to look at the current budget, because when we look at Mendon District, that's your current budget. So I took everything out of the 22, 23 budget for the village, added it all up. That's what it comes to, 329, 156. And then I apportioned that based on how they calculate who pays what in the fire contract. So the village on that platform would pay 131,965. The fire protection district would pay 184,134. Yep, that's from the fire protection contract, so the asterisks are okay there. And then the property tax rate. That's how I calculated it out based on the calculation used for the fire contract. The real property assets don't change, and there's a column out there for Mendon because the fire department has real property on its corporation side. The reserve funds I took from both budgets. Again, for the village, it's 22, 23, it's current. The debt is current. And that debt, if you look under village column, it's 37,556.25 for the fire truck. The protection district shares that amount of money. And I didn't do the calculation, but that 37 has a split to it. The maximum indebtedness doesn't change. The fiscal year for the village is different. The official year for the village is different. The apparatus doesn't change. The contract is just with the fire protection district. Okay, so now we go down to volunteer memberships. According to your data, Honey Falls has 30 active members, Mendon has 35. Nothing changed under the bullets there. Nothing changed with the ambulance or EMS. Now, if you take a look at that on the consolidated townwide district, 7-4, yes,
Just backing up the
Yeah.
property tax exemptions.
yes.
I do believe the fire district provides a partial exemption.
Yes.
Under the 466.
The fire district does a tax exemption.
And
How do you do that?
Special, that law that was allowed for school districts, villages,
Oh, what's
towns,
that?
county
voted.
could adopt the 10% partial exemptions.
Yeah, but that would fall to them in that district as a property owner in the town of Mendon. Right?
Right, but they elected to provide.
Do
partial exemption.
additional?
No. Oh, there's an addition.
That has to go through the assessor unless you would recognize
yes.
someone with a property exemption and give them a monetary bounty or monetary.
I guess, yeah, then in effect it would be through the town.
Yeah.
Because the town assessor.
Right.
Basically.
Yeah, so
Okay.
you live in the village, you apply to the assessor for the exemption in, for the village taxes and your town taxes.
Yeah.
Somebody who lives in the fire protection district or the district applies to the assessor for the exemption in the town. So,
Because the town collects the fire district tax.
yes,
Right.
but the exemption doesn't pertain to the fire district. It's the member, the active member, and the town offers it to them. The town and the village offer it to you because you live in the village.
You guys adopted that, it's good.
No, they didn't adopt it. The town did.
Okay,
Yeah, it's a municipal exemption. The district can't provide exempt property tax exemptions, only the town and the village can do that. So if you're a member of the Mendon Fire Department,
so that was good.
they would do it across the school district, or they could do it in the town of Mendon in the village of Honey Falls. Or they could do it for the whole district now, the state is it. So it's a little different than when we went to that meeting. Just we're clear on that? Okay, let's take a look at 7.4 then. All right, consolidate. This is with everybody together. This is not, you know, the fire protection district in the village or the district in the fire protection district. This is the district, fire protection, in the village. Total townwide. There would be 3 to 7. I picked 5 just because it's in the middle. Yeah, it depends. If you're going to do it, you're going to find out in town law between 3 and 7 commissioners, and you're going to decide what you want to do. All right, the municipal services are unchanged. Again, it's a district, so the town would collect the taxes. They would not be part of the town budget. The taxable assessed value for the 2023 town budget, you'll see right there, 948 million plus. The budget between what the district has for 23 and what the village has for 22-23, so both current budgets, that's what it adds up to, just under $1 million. If you look at the tax rate on that, it comes out at $1.01. You know, in real dollar amounts, but 1.014. The property tax exemptions are unchanged because they stay with the town in the village. The real property assets, you see what figures they come from. Now, I took Mendon's property assets out of there because they don't have any fire protection assets. The town, I'm sorry. I took out Mendon Fire Department's assets. We just put the district, the village together. So that parenthesis is minus the Mendon number that's in this column over here on the other. Okay. The reserve funds don't change. That's the aggregate value of them from the table for the figure 3 through 39. The village debt remaining comes off their appendix 3-3, which is the table for repayment of the serial bond on the truck. That's what's left to pay for it, beginning with this year. The maximum indebtedness is right off figure 336 because we calculated that for the town before. The calendar year becomes the fiscal year and the official year. The district runs on the calendar. The equipment and the apparatus, although they are not owned altogether now, it's the same taxpayers in the district, it's the same taxpayers in the village and the fire protection district, and putting that together can be negotiated. It was in Scottsville, Wheatland, I'm sure in other places as well. The fire contracts, the district can contract its services out with agreement from the department, or it can contract services to come in if that's desired. The fire department staffing, the commission would decide on the complexion of the membership, all volunteer, combination volunteer career, whatever the commission decides to do. In terms of fire department administration and operations, there are assignment options for the fire departments. For example, each current department could become a company of the combined department, and not lose their individual corporation status. So they have their same holdings, they have their same fundraisings like they always do. It just, instead of being the Honeoye Falls Fire Department is a municipal department of the village, it becomes whatever the commission decides it wants to name it for the joint fire district. It could be one name for the joint fire district, and the department could be that name with company one, Honeoye Falls, or company one, Mendon, you know, depending on how all that works out. But in terms of your department ownership of corporations, that does not have to change. You might have to change your name on your paperwork, but that's how that looks. You're already doing some joint training that would, you know, just solidify all of that. Operational protocols, dispatch and communication is seamless. It's all coming out of Monroe County. The length of service benefit in Mendon could be negotiated, you know, across the board, or benefits in general could be negotiated with the fire department. You paid civilian employees, each of you already has one, that could continue. You can hire more to do other shifts. You know, if that's a desire, civilian employees are used now, can continue to be used. The ambulance service is on a townwide certificate of need. No change there. Fire department EMS. Well, commission and the department can decide if you're going to continue to run on EMS calls. That's up, you know, that's up to them and with your input certainly, but or the new district might approach the village and say, we'd like to take a look at a change. I don't know. Or the new district might say, we want to negotiate to get an ambulance over. I don't know what they're going to do. But anyway, that's what this looks like, just in a nutshell. So in looking at the town board presentation, I think this is very important, 7.3 and 7.4. And I think there's some value in some things that are on this, the ones we talked about the last time. I tried to make sure that I took what was here and was consistent with that on the new one that expresses the dollars as well. So the narrative here, oh, and then your corporation papers are the appendix for the fire departments. So the narrative is expressing this and looks at, again, the administration, the delivery, financial considerations, and kind of is a total summary of everything that we've looked at up front that led you to this recommendation.
Maybe what specifically is this recommendation?
I took it from what you said last time, it's right there in bold. And then beyond that, David, it talks about why this recommendation, basically saying this format for governance gives the most opportunity for the advancement of fire protection in the community on a short-term basis, looking out long-term. It gives 5 people or somewhere between 3 and 7 people the opportunity to make decisions about fire protection. It's a single focus for them. They have the resources of the aggregate value of the property assessment in the town to look at hiring equipment. Do we do indebtedness? Do we look at some form of bonding with operations and in budgets. But they have the single focus. They have as much latitude as you can have with looking at fire service, administering it, and doing what is necessary for the community and the members of the fire department to be safe, efficient, and effective.
So this is the cliff notes.
Yes,
The rest is just supporting that. Yeah.
a lot of it is, yes. And to get from chapter 5 to chapter 7, it takes the pieces of 2, 3, and 4 and starts to frame them and put them together to make sure the town understands how you got to that. That's as simple as I can say.
That was it. I mean, that's what they're going, the town board is actually read.
Yeah, and if we look at the community expectation of, when you call 911 for help, you expect qualified responders and equipment will respond in a timely manner. Based on 3 jurisdictions, 15 people making the decisions, you get down to 3 to 7, and you give them a broad latitude of everything that's available within the whole town, you get more opportunities, get maybe some economies of scale that right now 3 jurisdictions can't do. It's not to say that something's being taken away, because we have the same taxpayers, we have the same departments, we have the same equipment, and all of that coming together can be negotiated, but it streamlines things.
And I'm just saying, this really is us, this.
That,
The rest of it is, a number that says,
Yeah.
we have this, we go here, that, I get that. That we've been
justification to do
educated
this.
to come to this conclusion. That's what I'm saying is, this
Yeah.
is why
Yes,
we've gone through. So I'm just saying is, we need to just, and we're all good with the verbiage in all of this right now. I'm just asking.
other than the things that Anthony had brought out, if there's anything else that you want to take a look at, do it now.
Is there capacity to be able, people that aren't here, people that need some more time to digest information, to communicate through these and for email, any suggestions?
Yeah, I would say, you're gonna need it sooner than later, because we're gonna, this has to have a cutoff time. I can't have somebody coming to me Monday before we meet, because this is gonna be in an electronic format and well on its way to being in a, paper format published for things. Because you want it at the next meeting, you want to see the whole thing. I mean,
You're gonna read it to us?
no. No. So what I'll do is I update what we've made edits on tonight. I'll push that out to you. And I can send you all the chapter narratives. You have the list of figures. You have the list of appendices. And they'll all come to you electronically. And Danny and I are going to meet Friday to try to package those things electronically. But I can certainly email you, the updates that Anthony talked about, and make sure you have all the chapter narratives.
And
So should we put a deadline then for when, if anybody has anything to add?
Yeah, if you do, I'm going to say Tuesday next week.
Okay.
Done. Tuesday,
Is the 14th.
oh yeah, it's Valentine's Day. Yeah, 14th, Tuesday. I'll just consider you're sending me a Valentine.
Muffy, will we have a paper copy of what you're going to publish? Goes to the. I mean, not all the appendices.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll send you the narratives that like Anthony had. I'll do those edits. And then probably tomorrow. And then tomorrow or Friday. Can't send it tomorrow, Denise isn't in. Friday, I'll have everything ready for her to send you each chapter narrative. The list of appendices, the list of figures. So you'll have the document. So if you have printers at home, you have the ability.
We can print
All right.
anybody, I mean, I think, Jerry, I'm not trying to confuse your thoughts, but I think what you're saying is you don't need all the appendix parts. You want the meat and potatoes part.
I want the chapters by chapter.
Yep.
The way it would be presented without the appendix.
Yeah, so what I'll do is I'll give you a list of the appendices so you can see what they are and the figures. And then I'll give you the printout of each chapter. Does anybody else want it printed for them?
Yeah, I know. Sorry, Jerry, I'm gonna say this, but different generations don't really looking at a computer screen and reading off that is as appealing as something. Bring your hand. I'm gonna put myself in that category of I want the paper too. So
That's
You
how.
are my highlighter.
so anybody that wants anything to print, please let me know. Let Denise more than happy. By the same token,
Print them out Friday. If Denise print out a copy for you, can I drop it to your house Friday?
That'd be awesome. You don't have to do that. I'll get
Well, I gotta
it.
go by.
But I
You
appreciate
know
it.
how many times I go by your
I
house?
only go to my house about 15 times a day. But that would be appreciated.
Yes.
Because I am one of those dinosaurs that
Oh,
don't do well on computers.
That's how I saw the many numerals off key this
Can
morning.
I ask in this highlighted title?
Yes,
Sentence. Is there more, that's it, it doesn't, in that sentence, it doesn't say anything about fire service, it just says townwide consolidation. You're just supposed to assume that is, we just asked it. I know it's about, shouldn't it say the committee recommends a townwide consolidation of the fire districts, the fire service, or governance and service delivery for fire service? I'm trying to, doesn't. I mean, it's constellation of the what? I know the whole thing is about the fire service. Did it say that there also?
To create a single joint fire district.
Oh, it doesn't say fire, I mean, I took that out of context. Go to the garbage district. I'm just saying, like, you put the word fire in there.
before that, it says the town gives this committee an opportunity to recommend a governance model for fire protection with the capacity to improve the resources and offer sustainable service delivery.
So the question from the town, or the town charged us with coming up with this solution. The question was. So it's kind of repeating, where
Okay,
Is this sufficient for the supervisor and? So.
Well, the town asked us to.
you mean the entirety or this sentence?
Even this, all of it, yeah, down to the sentence that.
I mean, I know what it's been talking about because I've been sitting here, obviously, but if somebody feels that there should be more verbiage in there, I'm not against it, but
just word fire.
Well, did you change something? Adam, Dan?
He did.
Yeah,
He
Put
did.
fire in there.
Joint fire.
Joint fire.
But why would, just,
Well, if you want to be that specific, I'm just saying, they asked us to recommend a model to sustain a service level commensurate with the needs assessment. So if you want to say a
I
joint
think it's
fire
just clear
district.
that Joint fire district. I think we're-
Are you worried we're getting into the legal structure
I'm sorry.
Are you, were you getting into specifics of legal structure of what the town would? choose
Well,
to
if you
do?
put joint fire district in there, you're assuming that the village is on board.
That's true.
And we don't know that. So your recommendation was the townwide district structure. If the village is not going to participate, then it can't be a joint fire district. However-
We don't know the village can participate. We're saying this is what we would like. to
This is
see.
our
I think
recommendation.
The town could look at this and go, never mind you. In the village.
But if you say townwide, that means to the town, the whole border of the town, including the village, okay? But for us to recommend to the town joint, they don't have anything to do, they can't legislate for the village. We say in our table, and as we go on in wording, that to include all 3 jurisdictions, it would be a joint fire district. But, I mean, I know I don't want to split hairs on semantics, but I don't want the village to read this and say, well, the town can't tell us we're gonna have a joint fire district.
It's not
They
the town,
can't.
it's this is not the town.
This is not a village committee. You cannot say that. I mean, I understand where you're coming from. You want the whole town of Mendon included in this district, which would be a joint fire district. And you want to invite the village to participate. But we can't say that you want to create a joint district because this is a town committee, not a village committee.
So we can say we want a single joint district. We can't say we want a single joint fire district.
We can
No.
say we want a single district, town-wide district.
You
Just-
can't say fire.
Take off,
Can you leave the word fire in there?
That's what I'm not confused, like.
you can't have a single fire district in the town because the town can't incorporate the village in a town district.
I thought it said single joint.
No.
On here it says single district.
My proposal was joint fire district, you should have both words. I think
Right.
Kobe's point is that an independent fire district is only encompassing a town, it cannot include municipal territory. That's where you get into the joint, so by default, if the village is on board, it has to be a joint fire district. If the village is not on board, it could be expanded into a.
So it can't say single fire district.
Right, because the town can't legislate for the village. The town cannot create a fire district with the village without their permission. So we're a town committee, we can say to the town, we want a single district, a town-wide consolidation to create a single district. So please go work with the village and get
We're
them to
covered as
become a
in
member.
service delivery fires.
Fire service delivery.
Yes,
Does that
thank
make
you.
you happy?
Yes, I think, I don't know why you keep the word fire in there.
Fire
District
service
for
delivery.
Fire government.
It's been for 8 months, he wants to see fire.
It's in there.
If I pull that out and I said, I don't know, we're talking about the garbage, lighting, I don't know. I'm saying- I
Created
see that,
a
I
joint
can
service
clarify it.
district.
Fire's in there.
Thank you.
Fires.
Now I can go home and.
The Yetis have it.
Wait a minute, what is it you're gonna be watching tonight?
See, tonight, oh, I think now it's the 1,000-pound sisters.
Oh dear,
Used to be hoarders, now we're watching.
hoarders, that's what you were.
Okay. Anything else? All right, so Friday, you're gonna get the chapter narratives, figures, appendices, list of the figures in the appendices, chapter narratives. Jerry, I'm gonna bring you a copy of all that. And then
Tuesday's D-Day.
yeah, if you have anything that you want me to consider, if I don't have it, Denise leaves at what, 3 o'clock on Tuesday? Tuesdays? You gotta get it to her in time for her to get it out to me by 3 o'clock, or we're done. And I say that with all respect because
Yeah,
Are those suggestions for everybody gonna be disseminated to everybody or till our next meeting?
we're out of time here.
Well, that's what
So
I'm trying to facilitate some.
I wanted to, I'll
Online
take what you
discussion.
have, consider it. If it's already in there, I'll get back to you and show you where it is. If it's not in there and it works, I'll put it in and let you know that it's in there and where it is. So that, like, by next Wednesday, if I can get to that part, I'll get you anything with edits that come in. But I gotta tell you, if you have something more to add tonight, do it now. Don't go home and start looking at stuff and say, oh. I mean, really,
Because then next meeting, we're gonna, if there's conflicting viewpoints, then
you shouldn't have
addition.
conflicting viewpoints next time. This is what all this is about. We had this extra meeting to get it to a point where you're saying to me,
right,
do
but if
it.
we're not discussing it right now.
Yeah, I would think
there's
we're
that
done.
potential.
So unless it's Corey or Steve Chitter or Ryan, I think we're good to go. Is anybody on Zoom?
Brian's here for a little while.
We're all in agreement with the moving forward with, yes. So
Yeah.
I didn't hear that, I didn't hear that last. I mean,
Oh,
like
you-
a small.
Well, we took your vote to do that, to vote, because you were,
you were
Well, you
crafting
were-
the,
I mean, you were telling,
Yeah. I know what I. Just want to make sure.
I mean, I kind of feel like this is all that we can do. And then it's the next steps is show up at the board meeting. Show up at the village. I printed them out today. I'm gonna be there. So, because while I realize that, you know, there's folks that can't, I'm gonna, and I will be this week. So, because this is important, and that's one thing that I can do. I'm a village resident, so here in the town, it's something I can do. I will continue to carry the banner.
now, when this report's delivered to the town, that's the conclusion of our work. So I've said to John, you know, whatever meeting structure you have, I'll put an executive summary together and do that for you wherever you want to do it. But, you know, we're done. Going forward, if the town looks at things and they want to create other committees, that's, you know, that's up to them, and certainly can talk to any of you about doing something, but our piece will be finished. And this is tremendous. This has never been done in any of these reports. There's pieces of this in some of them, but not to this extent. I mean, this has been a huge undertaking, but you've done extremely well in providing the information to substantiate the story. It's not like, yeah, we're members. Well, how do you know that? Well, take a look. And the formats that you develop, you can keep updating those. So, you know, there's a value going forward as well to what you've done. And for if this happens, if there's a change, whatever it is, you can still provide information like you did for this committee to that group of people, and you have all this history to build on going forward. So, you know, you've done something now and you've done something to continue on in a value going forward as part of the sustainability. So I think it's been a great project. It's taken a lot of time and a lot of effort, and you should be congratulated for that.
I want to
Amen.
thank everybody for participation on behalf of the town. I know this is, as you said, 8 months of two a month meetings and plenty of time in between for a lot of you who are actively involved in fair service. Appreciate all your input. Time served. All these.
I thank you for listening to Corey and I a couple years ago. we started to talk about this, doing something about it. And try it.
Well, you know, all we can do is try. Right? If we run up against a brick wall, and we run up against a brick wall, but we're
At least we're
doing
trying.
the best we can.
I think at the very least, this provides a vessel for education community. It's
Yeah.
Never had.
Definitely.
When they say thank you, when they are happy and upset about the service, now they have something objective, they can look at it and say, well, what is that service? Other than the appearance of a fire department.
You know, I feel, I mean, I'm not nowhere near scratching the surface, but you folks who are in the fire service are, but I mean, I've learned a tremendous amount from being here and listening and just absorbing the information that you provided, because if you just said to me, what's a tanker task force a few months ago, I wouldn't know. I'm gonna have a, you know, I don't know if that's maybe when they fill the tanks at the gas station or what, you know, I have never clue what that means. So, I've learned a lot.
Should we get you an application?
Not quite right there yet. I heard about all this interior stuff and training.
Your son's about to start training tomorrow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I have done my part.
In Honey Island Falls or Mendon?
Mendon.
Oh, there's I don't know if they have a bounty over there, but.
No bounty for me.
Okay.
I just went home and said, hey, we need some help.
Well, good. And that's one of the bullets on that piece I'm gonna do, because member to communities.
Well,
Word
this
of
has
mouth.
been very much, very informative for me. I had no idea what, I saw you guys at the parades, and I fortunately haven't had a fire or any terrible thing happen, so this has really been helpful for me as well. I had no idea all that was.
I'll tell you, another thing that's helped me is that, when you gave me permission for the, thing, what's the thing that comes on your phone?
Bricks.
Bricks, that, I mean, I have found that very informative. And I've been able to relate a lot of that information that comes in on that thing to what I learned here. And I quite frankly was amazed at, you know, the amount of calls that come in and the, I'm saying this for EMS calls that both fire departments are going to. And, now I don't understand all the abbreviations on there, but I get the gist. And it's impressive.
It'll be busy tomorrow. Thursday.
It's really impressive
Tomorrow night.
to see all those. I'm not gonna call them.
Yeah.
Well, you should be, you know, very proud of what you've done.
A lot of work. Thank you, Muffy.
Well, I'm just a writer.
No, I don't think you're just like,
I think you've done a lot.
you have driven this committee and the things that you do and your knowledge and background. And I don't think we would be where we are right now. But your leadership.
Thank you for that. You know, it's my community too, and I've been a part of the fire department since I was first elected to the board in 1979, so it's been a long journey in my professional work with the county. I've, you know, worked with a lot of fire departments, and I'm happy to do this, and hopefully it's helped add some values. Yeah, but, you know, what you've done is beyond what I've ever seen happen in any of the studies I've seen, whether I was, you know, working as the emergency manager or in committees with all public safety agencies. This is just beyond. And I worked on a lot of reports and saw a lot of consultants come and go. And they wouldn't have done this. If they did, you'd be 2 years in the making and probably upwards of $100 grand to get it done. So
That was my next point, is that the amount of money this group saved and Buffy's leadership for the taxpayers here is. And, I saw some of the reports, not only require, but when the library was being talked about throughout the town and things like that, and this report blows any report I've ever seen in the town hall.
One of the other things that's in here, and I think there'll be a value to whoever, whatever happens here, is the historic information about how we got to the point we are. I think that's important. That story has to be told. And David, when you said, we need to put down about recruitment, that's a good thing. But when I did the report for the town and the village in 2016, there was nothing on the fire district. I couldn't find the fire district creation. I did find it. So now that's there. It's been given to the firehouse. It's been given to your council. Those kind of things that I've run across that I think are important for you to have in your archives and in your files, I've pushed out. So that's going to be important, because if you have to dissolve what you have now to create a townwide district, you're going to need this paperwork to do it. So it's a great starting point to move from here to wherever the jumping off is. So I think you nailed it. Okay, we will see you at 7 o'clock on the 22nd. I know John won't be here. Robin, you won't be here. Zoom in. John, I'll get you everything.
I'll attempt to zoom in. Just don't know how good the internet is.
Right, and watch, because you're going to be getting these narratives and updated in the list you need. Okay? All right. Thank you. John, you want the tables and stuff back?